as one of the best attitudes for athletes who do long distance.
She used to train at Ngong, but she used to come marathon track training.
Helen Obiri, in her interview with international media, mentioned that her greatest
your predecessors, when they were starting off,
that she used to train
Ngong,
at Ngong,
what now we are calling the
her track training
Talanta.
At Nyayo
The
Stadium.
agreement was they would do
when
something
you were starting
for
off,
Ngong athletes,
your predecessors, when they were starting off the
Ngong that has so many people. You're saying you're doing 2 tracks in your statement for track. You said you're doing 2. Why didn't you consider doing 1 in Ngong? Because you know very well that there is nowhere else around the metropolitan area that has even the number of training centers that we have. Actually, most of the international ones are at Ngong. Leave alone that government agencies, the KDF, Kenya Police, have even stationed their camps for these athletes who do the same at Ngong. It has also left Ngong Stadium, where now they should have operated from, nothing happening. While all the materials, the ballast, the sand, comes from Ngong.
Ask your question, Gogoyo.
So I want to ask you, Waziri, why didn't you consider doing the track at Ngong?
Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Waziri, for coming in to answer the questions, but also just a quick one. When are you considering building a stadium in the North Coast? You know, the North Coast does not have, we have great talent. Great footballers of Harambee Stars came from Kilifi, Abbas Magongo. You want me to give you the list? But we do not have. We only have Kwale, the new one, Mombasa, Muhammad Abbas. All those big footballers came from Kilifi. Lucky Boys, there used to be a team called Lucky Boys, a big team that was one of the greatest teams in this country. But then, no one has ever considered to look at the North Coast as a home of talent and build a stadium. I ask you, during your tenure, look at it and see what you can do, and make sure that
Thank you,
the North
Owen.
Coast has a stadium.
You made your point. I see how many more hands. Cases, one question. We want to bring this to a close. Those who have just come in, I'm not giving you any time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Waziri. This is the sports person, and you're in the right ministry. Mr. Speaker, just a follow-up on a question by Parashina. I would wish Waziri to state the plans he has to ensure that the spread of sports academies across 290 constituencies are being planned to be executed, because recently we saw a few of them on notice, and we are yearning to know what are progressive plans. Lastly, the issue of athletes, and thank you for considering sports at Kipchoge Stadium. But you are aware, Waziri, that along Iten Road, along Moiben Road, our athletes are really suffering, finding places to train in terms of risk of accidents on the road. Are there deliberate plans to organize a road all the way to Iten, side of the road, so that we allow our athletes, especially the long-distance runners, to use those areas and save them against the risk of engaging or getting knocked by the motorist on the road, and you know all the ulabalu. I thank you on the issue of gender-based violence. It's now a serious phenomenon within our community, being that athlete community. We need to do something deliberate.
Thank you. That has been asked. Minister, can you quickly answer all those?
Thank you very much, Speaker. First of all, let me say that Honorable Maungu.
Just hold on, Minister. Yes, Women Rep Nakuru. What is the issue? Just hold on, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, CS, for appearing before us, and congratulations on behalf of Nakuru County. My question to you, Bwana CS, is about the Olenguruani Stadium. Olenguruani Stadium was started 10 years ago. It was constructed and nothing went on. So I want to just hear from you what kind of intervention will you give to Olenguruani Stadium? We are suffering, our youths are suffering because of this stadium that has installed from Kuresoi South. Thank you.
Can you proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with Honorable Maungu. I will follow up the payment for for the Luanda Villa team, who are the winners of the Super League, Division 1 League. I will follow up on the same to make sure that they are paid, and also a few other sportsmen and women whose money has not been disbursed. We'll make sure that that is done expeditiously. Honorable Mutuse, Nganga Training Center. Ngaga, okay. It is not in the immediate, the ones that had been advertised. But as we've discussed with you, we'll make it a great, should be prioritized in the next one to make sure that it is taken care of. Honorable CNN, Charles, how much is the cost of the new stadium? I think, Mr. Speaker, I don't have the figures here because we contracted the AFCON stadiums through defense. But maybe in the next supplementary, I should be able to supply the same, either here or through the committee, the relevant committee for that matter. I was trying to text a colleague on the other side, but because we are here, it's not been possible. We do not have directors for World Rally Championship. We just have a committee. So we have no directors who have not been paid. But if there is any complaint, it should be addressed specifically. The funny thing about this sector is that you have so many people carrying so many papers asking so many demanding certain payments of contracted works, where this one and that, I was a director, I was a committee member, and so forth. So we're trying to streamline to ensure that the record is kept well. And if you are not part of the record, you cannot be contracted as an afterthought after the fact. Honorable Pauline Samburu, I agree. I actually, when I sat in that office after 2 weeks, I realized that nobody talks about Lamu, nobody talks about Tana River, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Turkana. That all northern belt, including West Pokot, nobody mentions whether they need a stadium or they don't. I think there is a general mentality that stadiums are supposed to be in all the islands, so-called white islands and so forth. That should not be the case. And I think Kilifi falls in that category of the marginalized areas. I promise, and I want to say this, I promise that progressively we will make sure that we do affirmative action. The same way I did with in the Ministry of Roads and Transport, I will be very deliberate also in the Ministry of Sports to make sure those areas are considered for for stadium development. We have Samburu then being part and parcel of that area affected, and Isiolo and so forth. Honorable Oyula, as that's about CDF, unfortunately, Mheshimiwa, this falls back to yourself. It's upon this House to look at the CDF Act and ask yourselves why were you not able to finance sports, and yet sports is education. So it's sports, for as long as you're supporting education, you should be supporting sports because it is a part of the facilities of education. I don't know any other interpretation that would support. And let me use this opportunity to say, I support CDF. Even when I was in Senate, I still support CDF. I believe it is the best managed fund in the country in terms of development. So if we can allow CDF to also do sports facilities, it's extremely important. I think the interpretation that CDF is unconstitutional, from my position, is misguided. But it's up to the person who made it, and we are allowed to criticize decisions anyway. Now, on the question of Honorable Weda, again, just like I promised Honorable Lenguris, I will do the same for your county. We'll make sure that in the next batch of sports academies, we consider the marginalized areas, at least because that is affordable. We can start from there as we move towards 10,000, 15,000 sports facilities. Honorable Namwar, I am inspired by your suggestion that, because that is a question I was even asked during vetting, that what is the role of sports in promoting peace. I think we should transition what we started together as well-wishers and a CSR to the people of North Rift. We can transition that to think through it as government, how we can structure it to remain consistent with dealing with the menace of banditry and other peace-related issues in Kerio Valley, and then becomes owned by the counties and the leadership from that region. I also need to say that when we were playing that tournament in Turkana, I was very surprised that we were playing at almost 40 degrees at midday, and you're playing on sand. I think, your county and others deserve to be treated differently and as really marginalized areas. Honorable Parashina, I received your letter on the request of, I don't know, maybe he has left, on the request of the sports academies, and I think we will try our best to respond to the issues you've raised in Kajiado. And maybe now that you are not here, we can start with Ngong. Oh, yeah, it's here. Okay, yeah. I received your letter. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we will put it into consideration. When it comes to Honorable Mukunji, yes, I am informed that before the Embu Stadium was constructed, Jukiri was supposed to be the first one. And so we'll see in the queue how else we can come back then to Embu, at least having considered a few of other your colleagues here who are in serious problems. At least you have one stadium. Because of the Madaraka Day, it moved to Embu itself, but Jukiri was supposed to be the priority initially in that place. You have asked the question of the office furniture. I almost did like Balotelli once said that, why always me? The furniture issue is not, the cabinet secretary does not furnish offices, and neither does the cabinet secretary procure furniture for furnishing offices. The truth of the matter is that the furniture that is established there is part of furnishing Talanta offices. We have not occupied Talanta fully yet. In fact, the PS office is still squatting somewhere. They are completing. And also the PS youth has not moved to Talanta because for people who know, it's a new building. So it's being redone, and then after it is done, it will all be furnished. So luckily, in the process, my predecessor was there, and when I came in, the furniture was moved to other offices, other furniture was brought there. So I did not move with the furniture from transport. It is the work of the ministry to furnish the entire building. And that will go on until all the staff we need to occupy the headquarters is done. And why I said, why always me, is that people are saying the furniture is very beautiful. Yet it's a furniture that is in all other ministry offices, as you may have gone to other offices across the country. But I'm used to that now. Honorable Ngogoyo, very true. I had a meeting recently with Mary Mora after she came from the Diamond League. She's also trained there. She came with the athlete Cheriot, and we had a long discussion about what we should do with Ngong. I agree with you that we should prioritize Ngong. Other than Iten, Ngong is the other place that has very many high-altitude training athletes, and we are going to do something to make sure that that is sorted. Both the stadium there for track events, but also the routes that are going to be used to run along the hills. We also need to know and hope the county government, when they are giving out permits for people to construct, we need to take care of routes that can be used for training. And we need to preserve Ngong as a very valuable, a jewel for our athletes when they're training. And I think we really need and deserve to do so. Honorable Bayer, as you said, is true. There's a plan to do something in Shanzu to start with, which is still in Mombasa. And I believe that we should also move to Kilifi County to make sure that you have a proper facility. But what we want to do in Shanzu is of international standard, the equivalent of Nyayo, or somewhere between Nyayo and Kasarani, or between Nyayo and Talanta, something, because it's a low altitude, competitions take place in places like the coast region. We want one stadium to be done there of a magnitude that can help us in hosting competitions, because you can't host it in high altitude areas, a very high altitude area. Honorable Ruto, I agree that we need to safeguard the roads or roadsides for running by our athletes. When I was in the Ministry of Roads, we had worked together with, if you go to Ite now, our plan was to make sure that we safeguard running tracks with Maram. You don't need to put the tarmac in the side roads for running. And I think that should go on. I believe that my colleagues in the roads and transport sector will continue the good work, the plans that we had to make sure that this is achieved, not just in Elgeyo Marakwet alone, in all the training areas across the country, especially where people are running. And this will help. But also, preservation of forests and running areas around the forest will also be useful for athletes because they are off the road. And we can avoid accidents that happen to people like Geoffrey Kamwaror. And we were unable to have him for international competitions. Lastly is Honorable Liza has asked about Olenguruwani Stadium. That stadium is a county facility. And we believe that if you can work together with the county government of Nakuru, you should be able to deliver a good facility for Olenguruwani. But also, as we work towards delivery of the sports academy for Kuresoi North, yeah? Is that north or south? South, that's south. As we work towards eventually doing the academy for Kuresoi South, that may be an area to be considered for construction, depending. We have also some other projects we are working with development partners, and we will see whether we can identify that one area, because we know that is the home of Faith, Kipyegon, and many other athletes, and that's the neighborhood also of Beatrice Chebet. So we know that that area produces also some of the top athletes in the country. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks,
Minister, there is a member who has been here since we started, Ferdinand Wanyonyi, and he's been raising his hand, and we passed him many times.
Yeah,
let him be the very last. Bashir, you just came in a few minutes ago.
Now let me talk first. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Ask your question.
First of all, I want to thank you for this very good report on the preparation for 2027 CAF preparation. Now, you've not mentioned Trans Nzoia in the Kitale Stadium, which is actually under construction. And I was just wondering, CS, with a lot of talent in Trans Nzoia, why this has all been done? You've not done anything on it. And I was requesting if you could have even the CSR contractor in Eldoret to do the CSR and complete this particular stadium, because Trans Nzoia has a lot of talent. You not mentioned that, and I was just wondering whether I should remind you on the same, because that's part of the North Rift, and I want you to do something about it. Lastly and not least, I just want to make a statement. Bwana CS, we are going to have people coming from all over the country, all over the world. And Kenya, you know, there's a lot of this thuggery of the youths. Please make sure that you stress on the security of the people who come so that you don't get embarrassed. At the same time, the accommodation for the visitors, again, you have not mentioned. I want you to mention that as well, because it's very important. We want to give a very good image of our country. And so this preparation should have been mentioned here so I can be able to see where they can interject. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, that's the very last.
Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
Bashir, sorry, Minister. Bashir,
Yes.
when the Speaker says it's the last one, respect it.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. You know, in other places it's mentioned that it's ongoing, it's stalled, but in Northeastern, Wajir, Mandera, Garissa.
He has covered the whole area and said you are marginalized. He's going to give you affirmative action.
But Mr. Speaker, I want him to come out very, very clear to say that something will be done in Wajir, in Mandera, and Garissa. without saying that something like marginalized. So, Mr. Honorable CS, what plans do you have for Wajir, Mandera, and Garissa, and the other northern Kenya counties, specifically those that don't have stadiums? Please give timelines so that we know that you will be able to start at what date and something like that. Give us timelines of starting stadiums in those regions. Thank you.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on Honorable Wanyonyi's question, the Kitale Stadium is a county facility, so, and it is being done by the county. Until such time that we can have a partnership, if need be, in future, we will see what to do. But at the moment, it's being done and managed by the county government of Trans Nzoia. Number two is that we have the issue of, you are very right, preparation for AFCON is not just infrastructure. Today I just came with infrastructure, but I shall be chairing an intergovernmental meeting for cabinet secretaries to discuss now to prepare for the overall preparation, which is infrastructure, airports, the roads, the security, what kind of security is going to be done, housing, you know. But also this is an opportunity for people to invest in AFCON, you know, look for and tap into the opportunities that exist for you to invest in, whether in hotels, in the vicinity of the important stadia, whether you are going to provide transport facilities and so forth, Mr. Speaker. So I agree with the Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi that I should come back perhaps again next year, sometime next year, to now talk about government preparedness comprehensively for the tournament beyond the sports facility, Mr. Speaker, including now how we're preparing the Harambee Stars and so forth. On the question of Honorable Bashir, I don't need to repeat myself, Mr. Speaker. The reality is that there was no plan at the moment. And the truth is that we need to have a plan to build, at least in that region, at least one 10,000-seater, an international kind of a stadium in that region. The only thing that exists at the moment in the plan is the advertised Tarbaj Academy, which is part of the 30 academies that had already been advertised. But a proper stadium, as I have said, and I reiterate, that region requires affirmative action from the national government. I thank you.
Minister, we have come to the end of our interaction. Well done. If there are any outstanding issues, you can be invited to the committees anytime, but please try and manage our football. Number two, in other jurisdictions, these foreigners who come for high altitude training must be and are treated as high-end tourists and pay sufficient premium to boost our economy. I don't know what plans you have for those high-altitude training. You remember the Radcliffes and all those fellows who train in your county, renting little huts and not contributing to this economy, and then going to be world beaters because they have enjoyed our serene facilities. What are you planning for this? Because in other jurisdictions, you'll find this kind of training is actually a major contributor to the GDP of the country.
Mr. Speaker, I truly recognize your passion for football and organization of our football. And I, from vetting to today to when I meet you privately, you have always insisted that...
Even when we watch Arsenal together.
Yeah, even
always...
when we watch Arsenal suffer together, Mr. Speaker. I believe that, Mr. Speaker, we need to sort that area. And so thank you for the support you are giving me and the support being given by the members of parliament. We will do, it's not an easy area, because it has been a problem for a long time. But we are doing everything possible, using the coming elections to make sure that we open up the space and ensure that democracy prevails and we get the best people to come and manage our football. On the question of the athletes, we allow us to think about it further because, Mr. Speaker, we are easily going to be asked, why are you charging higher for that person coming to train to run and not the one who has come to film at the national park or so forth? So let me say this, that in our policy consideration, we will have an holistic approach to the same. The thing is that maybe then another issue is that when we build these facilities like Kamarang Stadium or Kipchoge or Kapsabet Stadium, maybe they will access those training facilities at a higher fee than the locals themselves, so that then it is the training environment and facilities that can help us get these resources. Otherwise, I truly agree with you that these people make a lot of money by training here, and they live very little because they live in small cubicles in the training facility, and then they very little for them to live here as an investment. But also, there has been a failure in the past in terms of investors. Very few investors have identified and invested in the facility. For example, this Ngong that we've discussed, Honorable Ngongoyo, if someone had a proper stadium there for training and then put an hotel there, they would get a lot of money. And that's where we want to tell private sector, you have an opportunity to make money in sports, and sports can really become an area that can enrich the Republic. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to be here. Excited to be enjoying this discussion with honorable members. Excited to be serving in this ministry. It's been very exciting for the last 1 month, and I look forward to even further interactions. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. You are released to go back to your ministry with your team. Next order.
Order number 11, motion, ratification of the protocol.
That is the Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, leaving the chambers this evening. He is the Cabinet Secretary who was responding to various questions that had been forwarded to him by various members of the National Assembly, and he has just concluded responding to those concerns as forwarded to his ministry. But right about now, we would like to introduce a clip. This is with regards to the activities of the members of the National Assembly. This is the members of the National Assembly that is yesterday on Tuesday discussed at length the implications of the judgment delivered on Friday by the High Court declaring the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015, commonly referred to as NGCDF Act 2015, unconstitutional. The National Assembly has indicated it will appeal the verdict. Here is a recap of that debate in this story prepared by Parliamentary Media Relations Officer Muremi Mwangi.
Adopted on 23rd.
After the High Court's Friday 20th September 2024 judgment that declared the National Government Constituencies Development Fund NGCDF Act of 2015 unconstitutional, with an order for the fund to cease operations at midnight on June 30th, 2026.
Clerk, we have quorum. Proceed.
Members of the National Assembly on Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 afternoon sitting debated the verdict and its potential implications at length.
CDF is an equalizer of development in this country. There are sections of this country who have been left behind, but CDF has brought them to be equal to other areas. Mr. Speaker, this fund is audited by 6 institutions. So therefore, when they say there is theft, I think it's a very wrong notion.
If there is one fund that there is accountability for,
it is NGCDF. NGCDF goes to the constituency with an AIE, with what it is supposed to do, and the money follows that AIE. And so even when auditors come to the ground, Mr. Speaker, they have to go and see whether that classroom has been built. They have to go and see whether that police station has been built. They have to see whether that child has gotten bursary, and that is the truth on the ground, Mr. Speaker.
Without CDF, 3/4 of the children of Marsabit today are not going to school. If no CDF, there will not be enough school in the pastoralist areas. But what the MPs have done is to think around, to think out of the box, to allow the people to settle and to allow schools to be put up. Education is the greatest equalizer.
Hii pesa ya CDF, NGCDF, ndio pesa ikitolewa hakuna ubabe. Kila mtu, kila eneo bunge limepata pesa yake, wanajipangia wale kulingana na zile na sheria inasema. Hivi sahihi pesa ikiletwa hapa national government, sisi itakuwa kwenda mbio, maeneo bunge mengine itabakishwa nyuma zaidi, tutatengwa zaidi. Kama haya ambao upande mwingine mbinu ya mambo yote ya serikali inafaa iende kama hivi inavyoenda NGCDF.
NGCDF has been a critical stepping stone for needy learners across the country to access education through the provision of bursaries, as well as the transformation of schools' infrastructure, the construction, upgrade and maintenance of security and administrative installations, among other critical community empowerment projects through the kitty.
When the members of parliament are elected here, or the framers of the current constitution, Mr. Speaker, some of the functions have been devolved. After this, you will hear provisional administration is illegal because NCDF only covers education and national security. Are those two functions, Mr. Speaker, county functions? They are not county functions. These are national functions. So, colleagues,
NGCDF is a fund under the national government, and the national government can be able to spend that money as provided by the Constitution. Second, Madam Speaker, I noted one of the key drivers of NCDF and success level is because 90% of the fund goes to development, things and tangible things which benefit the common person.
In their judgment, the High Court judges had alluded that NGCDF undermines devolution and violates the doctrine of separation of powers, a finding members of the National Assembly argue should not go unchallenged.
I have no problem with separation of powers as espoused by Montesquieu many years back. But Montesquieu does not come from my village, Kolo in Rusinga Island. He does not know what people go through. That is a very good concept, but something good is finally coming out of Africa, which is the issue of NGCDF.
For the avoidance of doubt, Madam Speaker, we have already agreed that we will appeal that decision. The good thing is that after declaring the act unconstitutional, the court did a suspension of the declaration of invalidity for 2 years. That is enough time for us to prosecute a number of things. It is enough time for us to prosecute the appeal.
I want to urge our honorable members, honorable Speaker, that we make sure this important fund is entrenched in the Constitution, and this House has the power to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, the ball is in our court. Can we do that as soon as possible?
Let's put our heads together. Let's get a good law. Let's not blame everyone else apart from ourselves. It's us to blame. We are the lawmakers. Madam Speaker, I support and I hope that we can soon do this to ensure that the CDF is entrenched right inside the Constitution.
Sometime next week, I'll avail you a kamkunji to ventilate on the matter, and I want to tell the gracious lady members of constituency, county constituencies, that ukiona cha mwenzako kinanyolewa chako
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Naomba niwasalimu nyote. Hamjambo.
Hatujambo.
Only shallow people call other people shallow. Your shallow man did not see that Gamene jail here is empty. Shallow Saleku.
Dadangu usiogope hata. Kwani watakaje? Just imagine
You were starting to piss me off. She just said she's having a situation.
Si ni mawazo tu.
You see, Mr. Nobody, our parents made this deal for us. What you can do is to bring the best out of it. I've already served you with the question papers. What else do you want?
One last time I get to see your